let's bring in our anchor, Shahan Ramkissoon, who's at the National Results Operations Center. 90% of the results are expected to be in tonight as counting continues. Shahan, any significant movement at all on that leaderboard?
Yeah, you know that 90% that the IEC is chasing by later tonight, I'm starting to wonder if it's going to happen at 2 or 3 a.m. tomorrow, because we haven't seen much movement. They told us in their media briefing at 8 o'clock that they had counted about 55% of the votes nationally. That hasn't really moved on the leaderboard behind me, Tony. But interesting information for people to know is that there are currently 35 hung councils, which means that there's no one with a 50.1% majority, and 123 councils not yet calculated. That's important because the IEC, of course, will try to get those in as soon as possible so we can get a better picture nationally of what's happening. So there's the leaderboard that we can look at right now. You'll see so far at 55% of the votes counted, the ANC is leading with 46.1% so far, and then the Democratic Alliance coming in at 22.55%. The EFF with 22.55%, sorry, 9.95%. Can't get that wrong. The EFF at 9.95%. So, you know, we're watching that very closely, but we're still not seeing significant movement. We can go live to our reporter Slindelo Masikane, and it's important to find out what's happening with the smaller party sleeve, because you and I were talking earlier about the UDM, etc. They're not even showing up on the leaderboard.
Certainly so. It's quite an interesting local government election. We know it's the most highly contested in our democratic history, and we are seeing some interesting results coming in here at the National Rock. As you can see, to my left, actually, I just want my colleague to give you a pan. You can see the IEC chairman in a brownish blazer. He's still on the floor having a conversation with one of the IEC officials. That's IEC chairman Glenn Mashinini. They had a press briefing earlier around 8 o'clock this evening, to give us a tally of the numbers so far. And of course, we know that they're hoping to have that 90% by this evening, but that's probably not going to happen tonight, probably in the early hours of the morning. Like you said, the smaller parties, it is quite interesting to see whether what's going to happen there. And I am joined by the Secretary General of the United Democratic Movement, Babu Mbongani Msomi. Just give me a sense of how UDM is feeling at this point. I've been looking at the numbers. Nationally, you're looking at around 0.55% of support, and you've only got about 3 seats in the Eastern Cape. How is the UDM feeling about this?
No, I must say, as the United Democratic Movement, we are not happy at all, because we could foresee what was going to happen. One, the conditions for the elections were not conducive at all. You have heard what the IEC has said about the glitches that they have experienced. It is not because of their own make, but because of the time constraints, as well as the new devices like the FVMD that was introduced. It gave them a lot of problem. We as an organization, we have affected negatively, because some of our voters had to go to the voting station, but they were turned back because they did not appear on the voters' roll. Then we did try to address this with the IEC yesterday. Then we promised that all those people who were turned back from the voting station, they were going to be given SMS so that they can go back and be given a right to, or an opportunity to exercise their constitutional right. But though they did receive some SMSs, some of them, when they got to the voting stations for the second time, they were still not allowed to vote, because the message that came from the National IEC couldn't be understood by some of the presiding officers at the local level. We are not ashamed that as UDM, one of the parties that supported the application for the IEC to postpone the elections. But unfortunately, the Constitutional Court ruled otherwise. But we are all caught napping, like what the IEC has said, because they have admitted that no, there were glitches regarding these elections. So we cannot be happy, because the other thing, we have been on lockdown for quite some time. Then some companies that assist the parties, they are not doing well. And more than anything, the election is about resources. If you don't have resources, you are out. You can't play the game. So those are some of the things that affected us, but we are being vindicated now as the organization because we were aware of what was going to happen. We expected this.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Msomi. I want to now move on to another smaller party here that's watching the results quite closely. I'm going to ask Babu Mzwanele Manyi to just give me a few seconds of his time. I'm looking at the results for ATM here on the IEC website. You've got around 0.68% of support. You've secured about 5 seats. And those are in the Eastern Cape, Free State, and Mpumalanga. Yes. How are you feeling about your performance so far?
I think the chairperson of the ATM can put it better. How are you feeling, Chair?
All right, we've got Mandisa Mashia here. She's the chairperson of the ATM. How are you feeling?
We are feeling good. The first thing that we are appreciating and thankful of to the South African members of the community is the fact that when we looked at 55% and we looked at the actual numbers of people who went out there to vote for ATM, we are already sitting at more than the amount of voters that we had at a national level, which then means that we have actually grown. We're looking at actually doubling that number. The fact that already we're sitting at particular municipalities whereby we've got seats, especially in Free State and Mpumalanga, it actually talks to the expectation or the thinking that we are only sitting in the Eastern Cape. It's actually showing that we've got footprint in so many areas. And as we are looking at those results, by the time we get to 90% or even 100%, people will be surprised. As much as we know that we will not get to what we expected, but we're doing far more better, and we're really appreciating people because it shows that people, after 27 years of getting frustrated with all the other promises, they've got hope with the ATM.
All right. Just quickly, are you happy with the IEC's performance?
Right now, we've got few things that we've loaded on the system to say we are unhappy with this and that, and those are isolated cases. I was actually saying to when he came that unlike in 2019, where the whole day we would be fighting, this time around, I think things are better. However, we're worried about the low rate of voter turnout, and to some extent, we do attribute that to their failing of actually arranging elections in good time, and also the issues of arranging logistics. The fact that so many people, about 67,000 initially, went away from voting stations because of their logistics and the voter management system, it shows that we can actually say that they've failed us in that respect. But generally, things are much more better than in 2019.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is Mandisa Mashia, one of the leaders of the African Transformation Movement, voicing some of their concerns, but also saying that they've grown as a party. The UDM not so happy with their performance.
Lee, don't go anywhere. I wanted you to ask Mzwanele, how's the former president doing? Is he still sick?
He's still here. I don't know if he'd want to engage me on that today, but you know what? I think I'll try. Okay, Mzwanele. My colleague Shahan Ramkissoon is wondering how the former president is doing there in Kanza.
Yeah, His Excellency President Zuma is doing very well under the circumstances. So he's taking it easy, he's observing what is happening, and he's reserving comment about the whole situation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I'll catch you a little bit later on.
Okay.
Okay. Shahan, that is the spokesperson for the Jacob Zuma Foundation.
Sorry, I was making you do my dirty work for me. But, I mean, you have to ask, right? Because we saw him voting and stuff yesterday, and the reason he was sent home from prison was because apparently he was sick. All right, Slindelo Masikane, thanks for that. Of course, Tony, will get more updates from The Rock about elections and everything else that we can possibly ask about. We'll be back with you after 10 o'clock.